The Free Thinker Show. Ignite your mind, challenge the norm.
Remember that rent increase your friend had to deal with?
Oh, yeah.
The one that, like, forced them to move
Right.
further away from everything?
Yeah.
We're tackling that head on today.
We are, and it's,
And let me tell you,
yeah.
it gets surprisingly complex.
It really does, yeah. We're going beyond the usual supply and demand conversation and looking at how algorithms might actually be influencing those market forces,
Right.
particularly in the rental market.
And that's where our source material comes in.
Okay.
We're diving into this recent Department of Justice press conference.
Right.
On YouTube, they're going after RealPage, a company you might not know by name.
Right.
But if you're a renter, they might know your budget.
They might. It's a fascinating case, potentially huge implications. The DOJ is taking RealPage to court, and it all centers around how they use algorithms and data to recommend rental rates.
So let's break down RealPage's role.
Sure.
They're essentially providing software to landlords, right?
Exactly. They call it revenue management software.
Okay.
And it's used by a lot of large apartment complexes. But this isn't your average spreadsheet program.
Right.
RealPage collects a massive amount of data on rental rates, lease terms, even vacancy rates from landlords across the entire country.
So they take all that data,
Yep.
feed it into their algorithm, and tell landlords what to charge for rent.
That's the gist of it, yeah. Their software analyzes all that information to suggest what they claim are the optimal rental prices.
Okay.
But here's where things get a little sticky.
Okay.
The DOJ isn't just scrutinizing the recommendations themselves. They're saying RealPage is going a step further by strongly encouraging landlords to adopt those higher prices and even discouraging things like offering concessions to renters.
So it's less of a suggestion.
Right.
And more of a nudge, nudge, wink, wink situation.
Essentially, yeah, the DOJ even found an auto-accept feature in their software,
Wow.
suggesting that some landlords might be letting the algorithm set prices without even reviewing them. The DOJ is arguing that this crosses a line into potentially illegal territory.
Okay.
They're claiming that RealPage is facilitating a system where landlords are essentially colluding to inflate rent prices.
Collusion. That sounds serious.
It is.
But how does that work in this context?
So think of it this way. Let's say all the pizza places in your town secretly agreed to charge $20 for a plain pie, right?
Okay.
That's collusion. They're working together to artificially inflate the price.
Right.
Now, RealPage would likely argue they're not forcing landlords to do anything.
Right.
But by providing these targeted recommendations based on everyone else's data, they're creating an environment where landlords are incentivized to follow suit and raise rents.
So it's like this hidden hand pushing everyone towards higher prices.
Yeah.
And the DOJ is saying that gives RealPage an unfair amount of power over the market.
Exactly. And to understand why the DOJ sees this as illegal, we need to dust off a little piece of legislation from 1890,
Okay.
the Sherman Antitrust Act.
The Sherman Act, I feel like I haven't heard that term since. Right.
High school history class. How does a law from 1890 apply to algorithms and rent prices in 2024?
It's a testament to the Sherman Act's forward-thinking nature, really. It was designed to prevent monopolies.
Right.
And promote fair competition.
Okay.
Principles that are just as relevant in the digital age as they were over a century ago. The DOJ is arguing that RealPage's practices, by potentially enabling this collusion among landlords, are stifling competition in the rental market. And that's a big no-no under the Sherman Act.
So it's not just about what RealPage is doing, but the potential consequences for the entire rental market.
Precisely. The DOJ is trying to protect the principle of a level playing field where landlords are competing fairly.
Okay.
And renters have genuine choices.
But let's play devil's advocate for a moment.
Okay.
Doesn't RealPage have a point too?
Sure.
I mean, landlords have to analyze the market, right?
Right.
Isn't that what any business would do? That's a key argument from RealPage's side. They would likely say they're simply providing a sophisticated tool to help landlords understand the market and price their units competitively.
Okay.
They'd argue that landlords ultimately choose whether or not to use their recommendations and that they're not forcing anyone's hands.
I've even heard some people compare it to those airline pricing algorithms.
Right.
You know, the ones that seem to fluctuate wildly depending on the day of week and how many people are searching for flights.
That's a fair comparison.
Right.
And RealPage even uses the analogy, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Okay.
Suggesting that when rents go up, everyone benefits.
But that doesn't really hold water for renters, does it?
That's the crux of the issue.
Right.
The potential problem here is that this technology, while presented as a neutral tool, could be exacerbating the power imbalance
Right.
that already exists between renters and landlords.
It's one thing if a landlord independently decides to raise the rent based on their own assessment of the market, but if they're all relying on the same algorithm,
Right.
one that's potentially pushing them toward higher prices, it feels like renters are stuck in a system that's rigged against them.
And that's why this case has sparked such intense debate.
Right.
It goes beyond the specifics of RealPage and touches on these larger societal questions about the role of algorithms in setting prices, especially for essential goods and services like housing.
It's a little unnerving to think that an algorithm could have such a significant impact on where we live and how much we pay for rent.
Yeah.
It feels like we're only just beginning to grasp the potential consequences of AI in these everyday aspects of our lives.
Absolutely. This case is a prime example of how algorithms are no longer just about convenience or efficiency. They're shaping the very fabric of our economy
Right.
and raising complex ethical questions that we as a society need to address.
What's particularly interesting is that the outcome of this DOJ lawsuit against RealPage could have far-reaching consequences.
It could.
It could set a precedent for how AI is used in business and how much influence algorithms are allowed to have on market dynamics.
And it's not just about RealPage.
Right.
This case has the potential to influence how other companies using AI-driven pricing models operate in the future. It could push for greater transparency and accountability in how these algorithms are developed and used, especially in sectors that directly impact people's livelihoods.
So we've established this isn't just a legal case, it's a glimpse into the future of how technology is shaping our lives.
Yeah.
But for those of us listening who are renting or maybe dreading our next lease renewal,
Right.
what does this all actually mean?
Yeah.
What's the takeaway here?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And the answer is a little nuanced.
Okay.
The DOJ winning this case could have a ripple effect on rental agreements across the country, potentially leading to changes in how companies like RealPage operate.
Okay.
However, even if RealPage were found not liable in this specific case, the attention it has brought to these issues is significant.
So it's like this case has become a litmus test, shining a light on this whole gray area of AI and its influence on something as essential as housing.
Yeah.
But for those of us who aren't lawyers or tech experts, what are the potential outcomes here?
Well, in the most immediate sense, if the DOJ wins, we could see changes in how companies like RealPage operate,
Okay.
potentially even leading to more competitive pricing in the rental market.
Yeah. So there's a chance this could actually lead to rent prices going down. I bet our listeners would love to hear that.
It's certainly within the realm of possibility.
Okay.
A successful lawsuit could force these companies to be more transparent about their algorithms and how they're used,
Right.
which could ultimately lead to a fairer playing field for renters.
That would be a huge win for anyone who's ever felt stuck in a cycle of rising rents.
Yeah.
But what if RealPage doesn't get found guilty?
Right.
Does that mean it's business as usual?
Not necessarily. Even if RealPage wins this specific case, the very fact that it's gone to court has brought these crucial issues to the forefront of public discussion.
Yeah.
We're now forced to confront these questions about how much power we're willing to give algorithms in shaping such a fundamental aspect of our lives.
It's like that old saying, sunlight is the best disinfectant. Even just talking about these practices and their potential consequences can have a powerful impact.
Right.
But beyond awareness, what can we as renters actually do to advocate for ourselves in this evolving landscape?
You're not powerless in this situation. Staying informed is key. And thankfully, there are plenty of resources out there. Legal news outlets often cover antitrust cases like this.
Okay.
And there are advocacy groups dedicated to fighting for fair housing practices.
Right.
They often provide updates on cases like this and offer ways to get involved.
So knowledge is power. But beyond just staying informed, are there any concrete actions renters can take to make their voices heard on this issue?
Absolutely. Contact your local representatives and let them know this is something you care about.
Okay.
Make it clear that you support fair housing policies and that you're concerned about the impact of algorithms on rent prices. The more people who speak up, the more likely it is that we'll see meaningful change.
It's a good reminder that we're not just passive bystanders in all of this.
Right.
We have a voice and a role to play in shaping the future of something as essential as housing.
Precisely. And that brings us to a final thought as we wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
This case involving RealPage and the rental market might seem like an isolated incident, but it's actually a microcosm of a much larger trend.
Right.
As algorithms become more sophisticated and integrated into various industries, we're likely to see similar antitrust battles play out in other sectors that directly impact our lives.
It makes you wonder, what will be the next frontier in the battle for fair competition in the age of AI?
Right.
And with that, we'll leave you to ponder that very question.
Indeed.
This has been the Deep Dive, urging you to always stay curious, informed, and most importantly, engaged.